Hi everyone, I'm Ivan Bayuki and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. Joining us back on the channel is our good friend Andy Schectman, the CEO of Miles Franklin, and a very special guest, the Economic Ninja. Welcome back,
Hey,
everyone. Welcome
hey,
back.
hey, Andy, thanks for joining us, man. You've become a bit of a international superstar in the past week. What happened, man? Travis?
I heard somebody named Robert Kiyosaki just couldn't stop talking about it. She said your name like 6 times in an interview.
He's done it a couple of times. It was quite a thrill, to be honest with you. I'll be on his show tomorrow. He heard an interview I did with Jay Martin, and it's really changed things considerably over the last couple of weeks. I've gotten, I don't know, thousands of emails.
Wow.
It's been a fun experiment in digging out of email, email craziness. So all is good. It's fun. I'll be on his show tomorrow. We'll see where it takes us.
You know
Never
what?
met him. I don't know why he
Well,
thinks
I
so.
know why. Because he wanted to talk about this guy. You've been talking about this guy and Russia in the One Belt, One Road project. So that's what really turned him on to you.
Yeah,
Tell us. Let me back this up. Tell us, what was it about the One Belt that you think got Robert Kiyosaki clued in? And I know, and it has something to do with gold also, right? And how they're controlling commodities and trade. So walk us through, the audience. Some people have heard your spiel on this, but update the new members of the audience about the One Belt Road and how it plays into the China strategy.
Yeah, I ask people all the time, Jimmy, what makes the dollar the world reserve currency? And so few people really ever get it right. But in essence, it was or has been since 1974 the protection of the Saudi kingdom, which enabled the U.S. dollar to be the petrodollar or the world reserve currency by default. And when we talk about the Belt Road Initiative, there's a lot of very interesting things that people don't quite understand about it. It's the largest infrastructure project ever attempted in human history. And one thing I learned from Travis was that all of the infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, the maritime channels, the railways, they'll only be patrolled by military and by commerce. This is the Panama Canal on steroids. But when you take a step back and you see what's going on, well, as an example, every one of the 13 OPEC producing countries are members of the Belt Road Initiative. 6 of the 13 are in the BRICS nations or have applied to join the BRICS nations. The 7th, United Arab Emirates, has just joined the BRICS Bank. And really the thrust of what I've been talking about for a very, very long time, starting with the reclassification of gold as the world's only other tier 1 asset, is the de-dollarization that is taking place by the BRICS nations and all of the countries that are part of it or are contemplating joining part of it that represent 90% of human population. When you see Saudi Arabia come out and say, we're going to join the BRICS nations, when you see Saudi Arabia selling their oil to China for the yuan-denominated petro-yuan bond, which is immediately convertible into gold on the Shanghai Gold Exchange, you see Nigeria doing the same thing. And you realize the fragility of the entire system rests in OPEC's decision to sell oil in dollars. Now, if OPEC is part of the Belt Road, every one of the countries, if China and Russia are embracing the relationships with Saudi, with Nigeria, if Russia is protecting Saudi Arabia and Nigeria, an agreement that was struck the day we left Afghanistan in a very unharmonious way. And if you look at all of the countries that are joining, from Egypt to Argentina to Venezuela to Iran to Turkey, and on and on and on, you're talking almost 90% of the world. And all it would take to really blow things up in this country is to see them all sitting on stage, arm in arm on a Sunday night here, Monday morning there. And they say, hey, fellas, US, West, thanks for the memories. Thanks for the memories. It's been great. We appreciate what you've done for us all these years. But you know what? We have joined our brothers and sisters in the BRICS nations, and we've decided to open up oil purchases in other currencies, including but not excluding the yuan, the ruble, the rupee, gold, maybe euro, and even dollars, and like that. All of the countries on the planet that have had to hold dollars in order to buy oil, and in most cases really don't want to hold the dollar because they feel we are hypocritical, and they don't like us so much.
Bullies are sort of pushing our weight around with the dollar, using and abusing it a bit.
Exactly, and or weaponizing it and kicking Russia out of SWIFT, and China, who sold 130 or 40 billion of our bonds in the last 7 months. Why would they want to do that if they have their eyes set on Taiwan? They're thinking we're next. They're going to sanction us. They're going to take our stuff. If they make that announcement and the dollars come flying home, which does the dirty work for Fed Chairman Powell and gives him a villain to point at, stocks, bonds, and real estate are all inversely correlated to a rise in rates. If the dollar collapses like that because it's all flowing home in a matter of hours, you see interest rates spike to the moon, and you see the 3 pillars of wealth in this country collapse like that. And I don't think it's very far removed when you see the massive coalition every single day. There is a new article pointing towards this coalition and towards global de-dollarization. That's really the crux of what I've been talking about.
So us as gold and silver investors, is this something you just protect yourself at this point? And I get it. That's all about trade and the new currency, a new possible BRICS currency that's backed by commodities. But how does an American, where we are subsidized by the world reserve currency, how do we protect ourselves in this scenario?
I think you do what the biggest money in the world is doing. Look at what's happening on COMEX, on the LME, on the Shanghai Gold Exchange. It's all being bled dry to record levels. It's being bled dry of gold and silver. Look at SLV. In the past 4 months, the authorized participants have taken out 100 million ounces of silver out the back door. The biggest money in the world is quietly de-dollarizing. The biggest money in the world is using the suppressed prices of metals to de-dollarize. Look at the fact that for the first time that I've ever seen in 33 years, the commercial banks are net long by over 5,100 contracts in silver, 25 million ounces. Never seen that before. So you have the most well-funded, well-informed, influential traders on the globe who are net long in COMEX silver. At the same time, they are draining the supply of it from the ETFs and all of the major exchanges. And I think that is exactly what you do. You don't get fooled by the misdirection of the price. You use the manipulated price to do the exact same thing that the biggest money in the world is doing, and that is take possession, remove counterparty risk, and get out of the way of that type of an event. And my contention really, Jim, and you guys, is that the Fed is doing nothing but lip service. They're talking about raising rates again, 100 basis points. Okay, so you're at 3.25% with inflation at 8.5% by lying standards. We've all talked at length about shadowstats.com and John Williams and his view of inflation at 17 or 18%. But even believing the 8.5% that we got from the last CPI number, at 2 or 3.25%, you're negative 5% real term or real return. And I think he's not getting tough on inflation, and he doesn't want to be written about in history books for blowing up the entire system. Instead, there's a villain, and that villain is the BRICS nations. It's OPEC, it's Putin, it's Xi. They're going to be blamed for blowing up the whole system, and
Right.
The Federal Reserve can walk away saying, hey, it wasn't us, it was them. And I think that's really what I've been focusing on for 2 years now, pretty much ad nauseum.
Andy, when I got to see you, I had the pleasure of seeing you speak at Boca Raton at Rick Rule's event, and you were super fired up. You were raising your voice. This was what you were talking about. But we also got to see Jim Rickards speak, and love Jim Rickards' work, done amazing work. But he said something, and this was on the tail of me putting out that story and you talking about as well, when China and Russia announced that they were going to combine work on a new reserve currency. Jim Rickards says you can't do that because they would need a bond market. Well, as I'm about to get up and walk away, he says, but there is another way, and that's if they backed it in gold. Now, we all know China loves gold. They import gold. They don't export gold, except for just a few coins out there, gold pandas. But tell me about Russia, because Russia's been buying gold for decades, but they've really made a fever pitch since 2015. Isn't that true?
So that's a great question, you guys, because Russia and China are not only the largest producers, and accumulators of gold in the world, but they have a long history of viewing it as wealth. But the RICS and BRICS, Russia, China, India, South Africa, they're all the biggest producers and accumulators of gold in the world, every single one of them. And I think that when you look at the comments that just came out by a gentleman named Sergey Glazyev, and I'm going to read something to you, which is very important, because when you talk about what Jim Rickards says and backing a system with gold, remember that the Chinese have used the digital yuan now in a beta test, if you will, for over 3 years. They did it in the Winter Olympics, but they've also been doing it to settle trades and infrastructure on the Belt Road. So you're talking north of 20 billion in successful beta testing on the digital yuan, which I believe will be the rails by which the BRICS nations issue their new world reserve currency and pledge commodities to it, to back it. Let me read something that just came out. It says, Sergey Glazyev is the Russian minister in charge of integration and macroeconomics of the Eurasian Economic Union and a leading strategist behind the Eurasian Economic Union China Commission for a new financial structure. He says that the fundamental principles upon which the new post-US dollar economic system will be based will have some common unit that will be agreed upon, but it will not be based upon any particular currency as with the Bretton Woods order, but rather a market basket of local currencies tied more deeply to an array of real commodities such as gold and other precious metals. So they will, I believe, use the distributed ledger technology and success, the beta test, if you will, of the new digital yuan, and they will ride that to peg commodities from all of these countries that are joining the BRICS nations to issue a commoditized backed currency, just like Zoltan Pozsar said recently, that Bretton Woods 3, we're entering it, a new era based upon commodities rather than debt instruments. And I think China and Russia are in the driver's seat to bring this to the front.
So, Andy, just to wrap this up, Ninja here had this great idea that I think we're gonna be pushing for the next few months coming up with Christmas. He calls it
hashtag silver in my stocking.
Yeah, tell us the story of what you want to do.
Yeah, so this rides perfectly with Wall Street Silver. When Ivan started this, he never knew probably it was just going to take off, right? And it's brought, with him and Jim coming together, it's brought so much education to this space to people that never knew about silver. And I thought about, instead of putting a video game or some cheap trinket in a kid's stocking this year, why don't we start taking photos of a silver coin and put a hashtag silver in my stocking, and then take a photo of it, put it all over the internet, and then start getting creative with the photos. And then we start sharing everybody else's photos. And if we can get that new hashtag, it's never been out there before, trending, then what we're doing is the algorithms around the world will take the information, the education of silver and how important it is to new people. And I think, like I say, every time you put something in a child's stocking, a memento, it comes off the market for 5 to 10 years. So can you imagine if people go out like me and I bought 20 ounces per child, so I have the next 20 Christmases taken care of. That's silver that is not hitting the market for another 5, 10, even 20 years.
Or ever. I mean, because if you give it to your kid like that, and their parent gave it to them, they're probably never going to sell that silver. That's like got keepsake memento, value to a child at this point, especially after their parents gone. Hey, they'll tell their own kids, hey, my dad gave me this, grandpa gave me this.
Well, all of us agree that silver is going to be much more valuable in the future. So can you imagine if you hedge it right now, you buy the next 20 ounces and 20 years worth, no matter how much it is, silver is 100, 500, even $1,000 an ounce. That child is going to get a silver coin in their stocking. And I can be honest with you, I think 20 years from now, I think the world looks pretty bleak when it comes to the currency reset. And I believe that precious metals will be much more valuable. Can you imagine being able to give your child to buy a car?
Or your grandkids? I mean, whatever's appropriate in your life for your kids, your grandkids, buy it now, and buy it now this year in advance while it's still $18, $19 an ounce. Buy the next 20 Christmases of silver that you're going to give 1 ounce per year in their stocking.
Smart idea.
Fun pictures.
Yeah.
I love that. I always say, and to Jim's point, as he's dead on, there are very few things that you can give to someone that have intrinsic value and sentimental value. And it's harder to piss away something that mom and dad left for you, or grandma and grandpa, than it is to put your debit card in a cash machine and pull some cash out when you got
Right.
a check from them for Christmas. I love it. Since the
Yeah,
time
exactly. Don't give a check to your grandkids. Hey,
Give them
grandparents who are
fiat
watching this,
dollars.
don't give a check to your grandkids.
Well,
Give
since
them
the
some
time
silver
my
coins.
kids were little, I've given all of their friends birthday presents. I gave them silver coins. And when I did, most of them were bummed out. And every single one of them to this day comes up to me and thanks me for it. And they all still have them, to your point, Jim.
I'm just saying, I'm expecting some big, awesome photos out of Ivan because he's super creative. And I think every time he takes a photo and puts that hashtag out there, it'll get just blown up. But Wall Street Silver on Twitter is a force to be reckoned with. So let's fill it with this.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. I think it's really, really great idea. And
it'd be great if the bullion dealers could sort of get behind the sort of same concept in whatever marketing you guys are doing.
I'm in. Yeah, and I know you
Christmas stockings. Yeah.
And for the record, I knew that Ivan and Jim were going to be something special the day that I was on their show, the very first day. And they caught a tiger by the tail, but they've done it the right way. And it's great to be back and be part of it a little bit. But great ideas, and love to be part of it any way I can.
All right. On that note, Travis, you want to give us our exit?
All right, guys. On behalf of Ivan, Jim, Andy, and Wall Street Silver, the Economic Ninja is out.